Hey, good afternoon. How's it going?
Hello,
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. Mm. Beth is on her way.
Okay. It
We
doesn't,
really appreciate your time and
absolutely,
participation in this event today.
absolutely. It doesn't look like I have the ability to share my screen. I don't know if you can give me
I
that.
don't think I can give you that.
Okay.
I think that's going to be Beth doing that.
Okay.
And excuse me while I watch out for a little kitten at my feet. Since no one's here.
Hey.
Somebody dumped him in my front yard.
Oh, wow. What's his name?
Sergeant Pepper.
Where's the Lonely Hearts Club Band?
Yep. Well, we have the dog, which is Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
Ah, okay.
And all of this will have to be edited out. I think I'm going to check on Beth.
Hi. Oh, he's gone.
Hey, Kimberly.
Hi, Patricia. How are you? I'm just trying to get my clicking mute and unmute off.
Totally understand.
I was going to say hi to Kevin, but it seems like he stepped away. Hi, Beth.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect. Is there any echo?
There's no echo.
Beautiful. Good afternoon. I had myself on mute and I couldn't get myself off. So there you go. And for some of you, that might be a blessing. However, all right, well, we will go ahead and get started. Welcome, Kevin.
Hey, Beth.
Hi, Kevin. It's Kimberly. Last time I saw you was at our staff meeting.
Kimberly, how's it going?
Going well, going well.
Great. All right. Kimberly, it's good to see you and hear your voice again this week. Thank you for joining.
Yes, no problem. I was going to reach out to you to see how to complete that document to be a mentor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Pat, if you want to just jot that down, and we'll make sure to reach out to you. Kimberly, do we have your current contact information? If you want to drop that in chat box, that'd be great.
Sure.
All right, well, I have 3 o'clock, or maybe it's 3:01 at this time. And I see we've got several folks on the call today, and that is wonderful to see. I think there may be still some that will join, which is fantastic. So, but in the interest of time, and to be sure that we give our speaker ample time to share his thoughts, I want to go ahead and get us started, if that's okay. So I'm gonna. So let's begin. First, I want to again welcome everybody to our second CommunAbility DINC group mentoring session. Excited to bring today's message to you, and again, just thank you for your participation in these sessions. We've got a diverse group of individuals from a lot of some faculty and staff from our HBCU partners. We have students, we have business leaders, and just those that are passionate about this work in our communities that want to come and be a part of the conversation that we're hosting today. So very, very excited about the response, and look forward to continuing to grow this conversation and grow this work with you all. So for those that aren't familiar with disability in North Carolina, we are a private nonprofit. We support employers across the state of North Carolina that are all committed to creating cultures inclusive of people with disabilities. What that means for our members and our corporate sponsors is this: disability doesn't just have one face. Right? Disability has multiple faces. And the diversity that exists within that disability population is really an important piece of their corporate culture. And so for those that are on the call today that may be new to this conversation, you know, when we think about the term disability, it's not just about intellectual and developmental disabilities. It's about physical disabilities. It's about mental health disabilities. It's about learning disabilities, epilepsy, narcolepsy, diabetes, cancer survivors. All of those individuals make up our family of individuals with disabilities. And so again, that's our focus, is to ensure that people with disabilities have an opportunity to not only join companies and employers across the state in various positions and career paths, but that they're also coming in and having the same opportunities for talent development and for promotional opportunities. And so again, so excited to host this CommunAbility mentoring program as a way, again, to advance that work, promote that work among our employer partners. And so I want to take a moment to just acknowledge those. I see we've got about 15 participants, which is outstanding today. We typically will ask everyone to identify themselves and introduce themselves. I'm gonna pause, and if those that wish to kind of acknowledge and introduce themselves, let's go ahead and give some time for that. If you do want to introduce yourself, simply give your name. And if you're a student, that's fantastic. Share that and the school that you're representing. And if you're with a business or another organization, if you just share your name and the title, your job title, and then the organization that you're representing today, that would be great. Again, no pressure, but just want to pause for a moment and give participants an opportunity to introduce themselves.
Good afternoon. I can start. My name is Janique Sanders. I use she, her pronouns. I am the Assistant Director for Experiential and Equity Initiatives in the Office of Identity, Equity, and Engagement at UNC Charlotte. I work with various different populations of students, trying to support them in their minoritized identities, specifically building out social justice related programming. One of those programs includes our Activate Social Justice Institute, and we do a session on ability in that cohort-based program, as well as making sure that things are as accessible as possible in regards to our marketing and things of that nature. So it's a little bit of my area. We have had previous programs as well that are currently on pause because we're short-staffed. But we'll be hopefully starting all of those back up in the next year or so as we are hiring folks currently. So it's a little bit about me, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much. And for those that don't know the background as well, we launched this CommunAbility mentoring program on UNC Charlotte's campus, and so that was our first pilot location, and we are now expanding that to other universities, but specifically that HBCUs across North Carolina as well. So thank you so much for that introduction. Anyone else?
I can introduce myself. My name is Leanne Cherigny. I'm a student at UNC Charlotte, and I also work in our career center, and I work actually on CommunAbility. So I talk with students who want to have mentors, and I also talk with the mentors themselves. So I'm excited to see everyone here and to hear what Kevin has to say.
Great. Thanks, Leanne.
Hello, I'll go next. My name is Kimberly Munn. I am a career advisor, employment consultant with NC Works Career Center here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I work with a lot of customers who may have disabilities, whether we know it or not, and they're receiving unemployment benefits or coming into the NC Works Career Center. And specifically one today, and you mentioned it, Beth, cancer. And I was just talking to a gentleman today that's looking for employment, major business layoff with Yellow Freight, and he has liver cancer, and he is computer illiterate. So he does have a disability that we may or may not know if he had not shared it. So we come in contact with a lot of customers that have disabilities, whether we can see it or not. And our job is to assist them with employment opportunities. Plus, I've been doing this for over 30 years and, work with you on when it was NCBLN as well.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to go next. I'm Pat Kuehl. I'm the operations director serving with Beth at DINC, and happy to take your ideas and suggestions as we improve on this very important program.
I'll introduce myself next. My name is Ryan Nelson. I work with Kevin over at Charlotte Works. I'm the data analyst there. So if you ever have any data related questions about workforce or just Mecklenburg economy, feel free to reach out to me.
All right, you heard it here first. So when you start getting all those emails, don't.
No,
That's great.
please do.
Thanks for
Good
being
afternoon.
here.
Good afternoon. This is actually my first time participating in this event, and I'm looking forward to hearing more. I'm Anna Sai with ComNet Group. We're an IT training firm here in the Charlotte location, as well as Raleigh, North Carolina. And we train in the latest technologies from project management and agile to cybersecurity, as well as AWS cloud services. These are just most of our in-demand courses that are virtually live instructor-led classes.
Great, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Julie Peranto. I use she, her pronouns, and I guess I'll swing things back towards Raleigh this afternoon. That's where I'm located. I serve as the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Recruiter for the North Carolina Department of Transportation. Happy to be here with you all this afternoon.
Thanks, Julie. Great to have you with us. Great. I don't want to leave anyone else, but out, but I also don't want to pressure folks. So I'm gonna pause for about 10 more seconds. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, great. If not, we will move on to the program.
I will introduce myself. I'm Dr. Tarsha Reed. I am the Dean of Education, Psychology, and Social Work at Livingstone College in Salisbury, North Carolina.
Thanks, Dr. Reed. Did I hear someone else want to introduce themselves?
I just wanted to say hi. My name is Sanji Datar. I'm joining as an individual and also as a parent, and I really appreciate the opportunity to listen in and understand the resources that exist for young college graduates who have either a visible or invisible disability. So I really appreciate this opportunity. And I also do work in education, technology, and digital equity space. So really happy.
Great, thank you for joining us. Are there others that would like to introduce themselves? All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the program then in the interest of time. One of the things I think it's important because we've got a lot of new folks on the call today, and that's wonderful, is I want to share the kind of the vision behind this CommunAbility group mentoring and the idea behind the mentoring program in general. What we know statistically, and again, Kevin's going to talk a lot about data later on today, but what we know about college students with disabilities is that based on research, the employment rate among college students with disabilities who graduate with the same degree as their counterparts or their peers that do not have disabilities. The employment rate among students with disabilities is about 28% employment rate, and that is 1 year out from graduation. If we look at students that have no disability, that percentage or employment rate jumps to about 75.5%. So that was kind of the aha moment for us when we saw the research and we realized, you know, we talk a lot about the employment or underemployment of people with disabilities from a national perspective, and we've done that for a long time. But what that tells us is something happens between the time an individual graduates and the time that they're they're looking for that first opportunity. So this mentoring program was designed to assist and connect college students with disabilities while they're still in school to business mentors in the community. And as I said earlier, this was launched at UNC Charlotte in 2018. And we, through the support of Wells Fargo, have been able to expand this program to reach all HBCUs across North Carolina in the last year. And really, we're into the second year of this work in trying to engage, again, college students with disabilities on these HBCU campuses to grow the conversation around disability inclusion and self-disclosure and what that looks like. And so what we believe is that as we connect these students with business mentors, they're going to have more success as they transition into their careers of choice. And so these group mentoring sessions are designed to engage students, to engage the HBCU staff and faculty around topics that can open up, again, conversation, increase awareness, heighten and improve confidence as these students begin to explore, again, what it means to have a disability and be in a professional environment, right? So we're very, very excited about the opportunity to bring these sessions to you as a group mentoring opportunity. The second purpose and behind this mentoring program is to allow individual students to kind of raise their hand, if you will, and say, you know what, these group sessions are wonderful. Boy, I just heard, a business that joined and I'm interested in cybersecurity, for example. I'd love to get connected with a business mentor that specializes in that space. Can you help us? And the answer is absolutely. So students have an opportunity through an application process to connect directly with business mentors. If they may not be ready at the onset, maybe they want to come into these group sessions and kick our tires a little bit to learn about the organization and really listen and learn from those on the call. Again, many of you are taking time out of your schedules from a business perspective, whether it's North Carolina Department of Transportation or other companies, to join us. And I encourage you, while you're on the line and feel comfortable doing that, opening up conversations in the chat section of today's meeting, right? Making those connections now. And then at whatever point makes sense for you as a student, if you're interested in that business mentor one-on-one connection, then this is a great way to progress that relationship and that communication. So that's really the vision behind this. And what we know from past experiences, and I know we had several that just had incredible experiences. The business mentors, in fact, I think we may have some video out on our website that talk directly to that, the learnings that take place, both from a business leader perspective and then from the mentees, and the real value of that mentoring opportunity and that relationship. So I want to, before we jump into our speaker as well, I wanted to also just share with you that we have a series of these group mentoring sessions. And I believe, if I don't make anybody sick by scrolling down this agenda here, these are the fall group mentoring sessions that are scheduled. So our next one will happen on October 25th, where we will have Jamie Brown, who is the DEI strategist from the city of Concord, join us and talk about building your brand, social media, networking, and positioning yourself for success. I know that Jamie is an HBCU grad. She's outside of the state of North Carolina, but she is an HBCU grad as well. And then I'll share some thoughts on November 8th around self-disclosure and accommodations and accessibility. On the 29th, we'll have Managing Your Career and Leadership Readiness with Doug McCullough. who is with Johnson & Johnson. And then finally, we'll wrap up on December 6th with Tom Kolkloff, and hear his thoughts again on leveraging the internships and future mentoring opportunities. So just to give you an idea of what's to come, and this information is also out on our website, and if you contact us, we are happy to get you on our distribution list if you are not there yet. So please use that chat box. And Pat, I'm going to just ask you, if you will, to monitor that during today's call. And if anyone would like additional information, drop your contact information in the chat box. Are there any questions, comments at this point before we open it up to our featured speaker? All right. Well, with that, I am going to introduce Kevin Lowe. Kevin is Chief Impact Officer for Charlotte's Workforce Development Board, and I think he probably has one of the coolest, if not the coolest, job title that I've ever seen with Chief Impact Officer. I love that. And I've had the opportunity to serve on the Charlotte Workforce Board. Gosh, I guess it's been 6 years. So I just recently rolled off and have had the opportunity to work directly with Kevin. So you are in for a treat as he presents some information on forecasting the workforce needs via national and state trends. And so if you are a student today, or if you are representing a college or university, I want you to get your fingers ready to either type some notes or take some notes, because he's really going to share some great information around how to ready your students, right, for future career opportunities and kind of what the economy is telling us. So Kevin, with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and make sure that you have the ability to share your slides. And again, welcome, Kevin. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Beth. So as Beth mentioned, I'm Kevin Laux, and I am joined by my colleague who you've already met, Ryan Nelson. He's here to be honest, add some additional perspective at the end and help answer your question. So with that, as Beth said, really what we're going to talk about today and what I want to focus on is using that national and state level data to help kind of future-proof your careers and understand what you need to do to put yourself in the best position to be successful. As Beth already talked about the employment rate for students with disabilities versus students without disabilities. So how can we really put ourselves in the best position to be the most resilient employees and to be the most marketable that we can be? And so to start off, I really want to start off with that data. What are employers looking for? What are the top things in demand from employers across the state? And so what I have here is just the list of the top jobs in demand across the state of North Carolina for the past year. And so you can see jobs like maintenance technicians, sales associates, CSR reps, cashiers, project managers. And what I want to emphasize here is you see some jobs here like RN through LPN that really are more of a career trajectory. Those are long-term careers for people. But a lot of these jobs may not be someone's career, a team member. That's not necessarily going to lead to family-sustaining employment for an individual at an entry-level role. And so thinking about this a little bit more broadly than just what are those jobs that are in demand. So if you really want to dig in, we can obviously help you get more data. We have a lot more information on our website as well. But what I want to transition to is not just what are those job titles if you're searching on a job board on LinkedIn, what are those top jobs? What do they actually need in those roles? So across all of the jobs that are in demand, what are the top skills in demand? Because at its core, a job is really fundamentally just a combination of skills and experience that are needed. in order to execute that job. And so what are those skills that you should be developing as an individual in order to make yourself the most marketable? And so what you see on the screen is the top skills in demand across the state, and then the percentage compares that to the national demand. So you can see those that have the green percentage are higher demanded in our state than they are nationally, and those that have a red percentage are a little bit lower across the state than national demand. And so you can see, again, project management, nursing, marketing, selling techniques, restaurant operation. You can see a lot of different skills that are in demand. And so when you're thinking about this, the next thing to really think about is, what does that mean for you? And so the thing that I really want to emphasize here is, we talked about the top jobs in demand. We talked about the skills in demand. What is that going to look like for students entering the workforce today? And a lot of what we're looking at right now is the impact of artificial intelligence on the workforce. And that research has shown that 60% of the jobs in 2022 didn't exist 80 years ago. And that just means that even when we look at that first slide that I shared today, those jobs, there's some of those jobs will still be around when you're at the end of your career, but you may find a job that doesn't exist today. So how can we prepare you for jobs that may be created throughout your career? How do you really prepare yourself for that? And so the reality is, a lot of that job creation has been driven by technology. So having these technical skills are critical in order to prepare yourself to be on the cutting edge of the workforce development and to make sure that you're the most marketable candidate. And if we're looking at AI specifically, you can see AI adoption does increase worker productivity. So this is another thing that I think is one of those trends for students to be really cognizant of and to master those skills of how to utilize AI, because that's going to increase your productivity. That's going to make you more marketable. That's going to give you tools that you need in order to succeed. Just like the internet revolution and being able to Google and access information changed things 10, 20 years ago, I think we're going to see a similar revolution with AI. And so thinking about that as a student, that's all setting the stage to say, what does that mean for you? How can you find your path, given that some of the jobs we talked about today may not be around in 10 years, and there'll be new jobs that you may be interested in. And with all of these changing technologies, what does that look like? So what I really wanted to start with is the average individual today has just about over 12 jobs throughout their entire career. So how are you preparing for a career with these variety of different jobs? And if you were to ask the professionals in the room if they always knew the path to get to where they were today, I have a feeling, myself included, a lot of them would say, you know, I can look back in retrospect and make everything fit together and make sense and how this experience led to this job. But honestly, I can't necessarily tell you that if I was in college, I would have said, yes, I know I'm going to be a chief impact officer. That title didn't exist 30 years ago. So that's something that I think is something we need to be cognizant of, is thinking about it through that lens of, how do we help students prepare for what's going to be an evolving workforce landscape over the course of their career? And so one of the tools that we've talked about in order to best position yourself for success for the past few years is thinking about your career pathway through the lens of skills-based career pathways. And so that's what I mean by that, is what I talked about earlier, is you saw those job titles on the screen, but not all pathways are linear or quantifiable. And so what that means is, you might have been in an industry, like you might have been a coal miner for years and years. I used to work out in Appalachia, Kentucky, with a lot of individuals that were decimated by the downturn of that coal industry. Well, they were able to transition into aerospace, into engineering fields, into software development because of the engineering skill set that they had, crossing industries, looking at the skills that they had and how do those translate into other fields that they're not as familiar with. And so pathways like that aren't necessarily easy to define. And then, like I said, for jobs that don't exist today, we can't create a clear and defined pathway for what a senior prompt engineer is going to look like in 10 years. And so these new positions, we can't really map that out and say, here's your exact path to get to this role, because We don't have enough data today in order to do that. And then lastly, this skills-based career pathways, I want to emphasize this is a skill in and of itself. And so this is something that requires a great degree of introspection as an individual to be able to frame your interest and abilities in this lens and to market yourself as a candidate across a variety of positions and across a variety of industries, and to understand where you would be a good fit and where you might not be a good fit. And so that's something that's important to think about, is that when you're looking at this, it's also something that you can get better at in terms of framing your resume and your skills to position yourself for success. And so again, one of the things that I like to think about here is when you go back to that first slide, you look at jobs like team member or sales associate. Not every job's going to necessarily be relevant experience. You know, my first jobs working in the restaurant industry aren't going to show up as relevant experience on my resume for my job today. But almost every job gives individuals some sort of experience or skill that are core competencies for other positions. So the skills that you develop dealing with customers, managing relationships, working with other team members, every job helps you build these skills that are transferable. I can't tell you how many times we've been at these professional conferences and people would stand up and say, you know, one of my first jobs working in service, working in manufacturing, working in agriculture, I developed skills that I'm still using today. And that was one of the most transformative jobs of my career. And so looking at it through that lens, it doesn't mean you're going to put down that I was a packer for a senior level role. But those skills, thinking about how do you leverage that skill for other positions and communicate that you have that skill, even though it may not have shown up on a previous position. And so what I wanted to look at here is, what are the top skills in demand in Charlotte? And so I've got this broken down in two ways. On the left-hand side, I've got what are the top baseline skills. So think of these as your soft skills, not necessarily hard technical skills. You're looking at communications, customer service, management. These are more soft skills. And then on the right-hand side, the specialized skills. So these are specific skills of requiring you to dive deep in a specific area to apply your expertise, like project management, marketing, accounting. And so on the left-hand side, you really want to develop a broad base of these baseline skills. You can see communications is in demand for over 200,000 jobs in Charlotte. So regardless of what job you're looking at, some of these skills are going to be fundamental. So having as many of those skills as possible is going to put you in a great position to succeed. And it's the analogy of the fox and the hedgehog. And so a hedgehog is a very specialized animal. So the hedgehog is really good at one or two things. If you're looking at that, that's your specialized skills on the right-hand side. A fox is kind of a generalist, and they're really good at a lot of those different baseline skills. And so thinking about it through that lens, what you want to do to be the most marketable as possible is to have as many of these skills as possible put together. I'm going to kind of jump around here. Give me 1 second here. And so this is what I'm talking about here, is that broad base of skills. What to be the most resilient employee that you could be, you really want to have that broad base and then have depth in a few specialized areas. This is from some research done by MZ in terms of what makes an individual the most resilient employee possible. And what they found is having that broad base enables you to better collaborate with others on your team outside of your core area. So even if you are not necessarily a software development expert, having that base understanding of technology or that industry allows you to operate on those cross-functional teams to at least know enough about what they're working on to bring your expertise to bear. And so if you're specializing in a certain area, you're able to understand their world enough and bring your expertise in marketing or in legal compliance to bear in that world and understand their world as well. And so the three main areas that this research mapped out as some of the most resilient skills are technical skills, human skills, and hard to find skills. And so those technical skills are those technology or core business skills. Looking at that list that I had, you're looking at skills like SQL, you're looking at skills like Java development. Those are some of those top skills that are in demand, and that technical skill area. And then on the broad base, you really want to have as many of those as possible. Those hard to find skills indicate skills where you see kind of a gap in the local labor market. We do have some data on that on our website. For example, one of those areas would be, for example, the SQL language. So that is one of those skills that businesses tell us that there consistently is a gap in demand for. So finding those skills that there is a gap in the labor market, developing those specialty skills and building as much of a broad base as possible is going to make you as resilient and marketable of an employee as you could possibly be. And the reason I say that is because these skill areas transition across multiple careers. And so this spaghetti diagram that you see here is, again, some more research from that same paper that shows that communication skill, you may not even think about it, but it is highly in demand in the tech and engineering space. Again, even being able to develop the software alone is necessary, but not necessarily sufficient in order to be able to communicate with business leaders about what you're developing, how you've created it, what technical challenges you ran into. You can see those skills are transferable across a variety of different industries. So if you develop those skills on the left-hand side, it gives you that flexibility to find career areas that are a match for you, to find specific positions that are intriguing, and then also to move and maneuver based on changes in the economy. So if tech and engineering no longer seems to be a fit and there's more business jobs available, you can shift into that area by looking at it through the lens of, I still have communications, leadership, problem-solving skills. What occupations in this other career area align with my skill set? This is some research from McKinsey, building off of this idea is a concept called skill stacking. And so the research from McKinsey looked at some of the most predictive, what they called them deltas of individuals' career success. And they called them deltas because they're a mixture of skills and attitudes. It's not just being technically competent, but it also is about having the right attitude in order to be able to tackle a problem and solve a problem. And looking at it through that lens, I really wanted to share this idea of a concept called skill stacking. And what I'm getting at here is that these foundational skills, you looked at on the left side, those baseline skills, those soft skills, they're the keys to developing new specialized skills. And so if you look at the pyramid that I have here, you see the foundational skills would be skills like creativity or adaptability. Having someone that's adaptable to many different circumstances, just thinks outside the box, thinks creatively. How that would show up maybe on a job posting would be through the lens of, we need someone who's a problem solver. We need someone who's good at planning. So that's a baseline skill. That's still leveraging that fundamental creativity and adaptability skill set. And now it's being put in the language of a baseline skill on a job posting. And then the specialized skills that I listed here are, again, ways that you can apply that skill to meet a business need. Would be something like project management or SQL. So at the end of the day, when you're doing project management or you're doing SQL, you're looking at it to solve a business problem. Fundamentally, it's, hey, we have this need that needs to be met, and then you're coding in that language and thinking creatively about, how do I meet this need? How can I problem solve here? Or if you're managing a project, again, how do we plan through this? How do we adapt if we're behind schedule and we have these different dependencies? How do we work through all of that? And so those specialized skills really give you a way to express those foundational skills that you continue to grow and develop. So looking at it through that lens, you don't really want to just skip to the end. You want to make sure that you're looking at it through what foundational skills can you develop and not losing sight of that. That's something employers will tell us as well, is that there are some individuals that are very technical on the right-hand side, and this is from the research in McKinsey. So you may be great at project management, or you may be great at software development. But if you don't have that foundational skill, if you can't look at it through the lens of help me solve this business problem, it's not as valuable to employers. And so those foundational skills, what did those look like from the research out of McKinsey's? They broke it up into 4 main quadrants: cognitive foundational skills, interpersonal, self-leadership, and digital. So these were the main quadrants of what those foundational skills are, looking at cognitive skills such as critical thinking, communication, mental flexibility, and planning. Interpersonal is that ability to work as a team, develop relationships, really move things together across multiple departments and individuals. Self-leadership, understanding who you are, thinking like an entrepreneur, again, that creative problem solving, ownership of a situation, and then being able to set and achieve goals. The digital skills, we talked about this briefly with the mention of AI, digital fluency, software use, understanding systems, that creativity and adaptability to new technologies. And so these foundational skills are highly correlated with higher levels of income, higher levels of employment, and higher levels of job satisfaction. And so you can see the color coding here to break down which quadrant these skills are associated with. But the top skills associated with higher levels of income were that ability to develop a work plan, organizational awareness, and self-confidence. Again, particularly salient for today's conversation, what are those deltas that were most correlated with employment? Adaptability, coping with uncertainty, and synthesizing messages. So to the extent that you are able to develop and communicate and demonstrate that you are very adaptable, you're able to handle uncertainty, and able to take, a large amount of information, make it very digestible, is going to be highly correlated with increased employment. And then on the right-hand side, you can see fulfillment really fits all in that one quadrant of self-leadership. So self-leadership as a quadrant was far and away the most associated with job satisfaction. So being able to cope with uncertainty, to have that self-confidence and self-motivation led people to find higher levels of job satisfaction. And so again, we talked about what that means in terms of an individual becoming the most resilient that they could be. And so what I wanted to do here is just kind of bring that all together, is what are the keys if you're looking at this as a college student today and saying, what are the keys I need to remember? What are the takeaways? Well, one of the things you want to think about is learning how you'd like to add value in a workplace. There is a difference necessarily between what you're really good at and what you like to do. So figuring out how you can blend those two things together and how you can do that in a way that adds value. Knowing your professional strengths. Again, like I said, that may be different from what you like to do. You may have strengths that is something that you can do, but you don't love to do, but understanding what those are so that you can position yourself to be successful. And then lastly, again, what you're doing today is a great example of this, is mastering networking and informational interviewing. And so this is something I always say I wish someone had told me when I was a student, is that the world is not a meritocracy, and the most qualified candidate doesn't always get access to opportunities. And so it is really important that you are leveraging opportunities like NCDI to network with individuals in business, to make sure that you have exposure and visibility. And then again, that informational interviewing, you can look that up. That really is just understanding how to approach an interview to get information out of employers to understand whether or not that would be a good fit for you based on your skills. So looking at it, someone coming from a different industry, how do you get the information you need in order to understand if that's a good fit for you? And so lastly, again, on that point of networking and leveraging different resources, I did just want to point out just one small resource. I know there are obviously a lot of other resources, but the Department of Labor does have a workforce recruitment program, which does help connect employers with highly motivated recent graduates into employers who are specifically interested in recruiting employees with disabilities. So that is a resource to check out in terms of entering into that portal. If you're looking for an employment opportunity, that is just one resource to kind of network, to get yourself out there and to get that exposure. And so with that, I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen here and just open it up for any questions or comments at this point.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much. Wow, that was a lot. That was a lot. I knew you would not disappoint. So many good nuggets, I think, for us to take away. I want to give folks an opportunity to ask questions, and if you would rather drop them in the chat box, Pat, you're on mute, but if you would just monitor that chat box and see if there's any questions for Kevin at this time.
Yeah, and don't be shy. Help us out. Beth cannot see the chat box, and I'm doing my best to keep up with it.
And if you'd like to just take yourself off mute and ask a question, you're welcome to do that as well.
I also want to state that we're going to be posting the past web discussion as well as this lovely one that Kevin just did on our website within the next week or two. So if you want to go and listen to the past learnings, you're welcome to do that or share them with students. We have one person who has indicated that she would love to share these with students.
And then I did see a question about the materials, and yes, I will be sharing the slide deck after this meeting. That will be shared afterwards, and we've made sure that that's accessible, so you'll be able to see that afterwards.
Hi, Kevin. This is Kimberly with NC West Career Center. Listen, that was great information. And I know you've shared some, and we've got some information from you all over here at NC Works. But on the flip side, have you had any responses from employers, even though they see or have interviewed individuals with those skill sets but have a disability? Have they had any, I want to say, they're thinking of challenges of hiring someone, even though they have the skills, the soft skills and the occupational or technical skills, but they're kind of wavering because of their disability if it is disclosed? I don't know if you've seen it on the flip side.
So what I will say is obviously in the interest of transparency, if that was the specific barrier and that was the reason that an employer was not hiring someone, they would not disclose that. That would obviously potentially be an EEOC violation. And so what we really like to think about is, even if that does happen, is how do we look at this both from the lens of the job seeker and then empowering employers as well. And so what I mean by that is, as a job seeker, you might have to go through a number of different steps, like go through an applicant tracking system and enter in the same information 10 different times. We have research and we have videos on this that shows that is a barrier. And so for an individual that potentially has a disability where they can't be in front of a computer for extended periods of time, that's something that may prevent them from applying. So working with employers to make sure that they aren't putting up any unintentional barriers to applicants, making sure that those are removed, and providing employers with as many resources and tools as possible to access these candidates. And then at the same time, making sure that culturally and organizationally, it is an environment that is set up for individuals to be successful. And so what I mean by that is, let's say you're an individual who potentially is on intermittent disability, and it's one of those where you may need to leave certain days and it's a little inconsistent based on your health status. Making sure that that employer has an appropriate leave policy, that they work with the job seekers in order to make sure that if you're trying to attract this population, you're not necessarily doing something where you're going to kind of self-filter out. We've seen some kind of case studies from employers. There is one restaurant in, I think it's in Ohio, where they specifically targeted individuals with disabilities, and they saw a huge increase in their employment retention, in their productivity. So it is an opportunity for employers to be intentional about this, because there is a real return on investment. And so stating the business case to employers about targeting individuals who are more likely to be retained employees, very hard workers. They just have to make sure that they're setting up the circumstances for individuals to be successful.
Thank you. That was a great example, the company.
Yeah,
So,
and again,
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Patricia.
So there are many companies now that understand the return on investment for disability employment and inclusion. We won't go into that here. I'll just put a plug in to go visit our website, because we have a lot of data and information about employers that have active strategies around recruitment from this space. Our fall conference is coming up on October 12th here in Davidson, North Carolina, at the Train Technologies campus. So I think you'd be surprised if you attend that conference or go visit our website at how many companies are really invested in this. Now, all that said, speaking to the educators in the room, one of our challenges is that students with disabilities have enough hassles, all right, dealing with the process of getting their degree, often navigating health challenges or access challenges or accommodation challenges at the same time. All that said, they don't tend to take as much advantage of internships and practicums. And I see a direct relationship between students who have gotten involved early before they left college and had good connections with employers ahead of time, and their success in their jump out into that career starting jobs, so to speak. And so anything that we can do collectively as a community to encourage youth with disabilities to look for internships, to look for practicums, to raise their hands and get involved in those things, so employers get to know them and get to see what they're capable of. All of that's helpful.
Yeah, Pat, I appreciate that comment very much, and I agree. I think when we think about opportunities that we bring to our member companies and our sponsor companies, I think about the Jobsability portal as well, that's out there, that's really designed to allow our companies that are engaged to post those jobs specifically through this portal. Because it's designed to, again, on the career portal side, it's designed to assist individuals with disabilities that are seeking employment to build their profile and then be matched with, with the jobs of those companies that are posting positions specific to this talent pool. And listen, there's a number, right, of portals out there. So this is just one example, but it is one that, Pat, you mentioned our fall conference is coming up next week. John Robinson, the CEO of Jobsability, will be there as part of his message around, again, the importance of putting your company in a position to identify this talent pool. I've spent several days on campuses across the state at HBCUs in the month of September at your fall career fairs, and they've been awesome, incredible, and many of our member companies are represented at those career fairs. And they come back and they will say, well, geez, we can't find the talent. Where are these people with disabilities? And we say, they're there, right? They're there. They're just simply not disclosing. And so that's a topic that we're gonna talk a little bit more about. But understand that 75% of people with disabilities have non-visible disabilities. And so that's a real important statistic for you to think about as we move forward in identifying the talent. One of the things, Kevin, that you mentioned, and I loved it around the foundational skills, which is, you mentioned creativity and adaptability. I want us to sit on those two words for a minute, because as a person with a disability myself, you know, and having a non-visible disability, so often that's a strength that we don't tap into a lot. If you have a disability, and you know, you're a college student right now, you have a history of adaptability and creativity. You know you do. Because you're continually finding ways to work around or live in a world or a society that's designed for people without disabilities, right? So, you know, taking time to really identify your strengths. And again, Kevin, you said it so well. You know, this is the preparation, and I think this is part of the process of what we want to experience through this mentoring program, is to equip you with the ways to, you know, identify what your adaptability and creativity skills look like. But that just really resonated with me in terms of a foundational skill. And I think so often we don't realize that. But that's, you know, that's definitely a muscle that has been exercised by those students and individuals with disabilities.
And Beth, I just want to echo that and build on that. Again, I think that is a great point. Again, I don't want you to think, you know, if you learn a skill, right? You're in school and you've learned, I went to a class and now I know how to develop in this language. Like Beth said, you've got an entire lifespan or history of being creative and adaptable in other circumstances, and not losing sight of those skills that you have, and thinking about, how do I apply this same lens across all of my different skills? How do I make sure that I'm creative, not just in my daily life and adaptable there, but when I'm working on a project, when I'm using a skill, even if I learned a very formulaic way to go about things, to not let that box you in, right? To make sure that you're able to use that skill, but to not lose sight of those other skills that sometimes when we learn new ones, we kind of try to fit into a box.
Yeah, I love that, Kevin. And I think about shifting our perspective to think about disability and the superpowers that can come with it. And I'm not just talking about things like, you know, figuring out access in a wheelchair. I'm also talking about there are a huge number of scientists and actors and public speakers who have bona fide disabilities, many of them unseen or unseeable, like dyslexia. I don't know how anybody with dyslexia figures out how to memorize a movie script, but I can count you probably 10 different actors right off the top of my head that will freely say they have that. So they must be doing something to encode the memory, you know, and make it possible for them to take on those roles. You know, but I think the fact that the disc goes in front of the word often makes people minimize the superpower muscle that they have developed to get around that disability. Other comments, questions?
Absolutely. No, Pat, that was great.
And you know, Beth, we have such a great, diverse audience here today. I'm flabbergasted. I mean, it's just, it's a wonderful audience. Students, teachers, government employees. By the way, don't neglect looking into government-based jobs. Some of those are really good to pursue. And parents. We have some parents here today.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
All right. Shamir has a question. Please go ahead.
Learn more about this initiative or what you guys are doing. In my office, we we see so many students. I supervise 15 students, and there's just constantly students in and out of our office. And we have, even some of our staff have this, but like we're just we're like the cousin to the CAPS on campus, which is our where we get people get support, students get support who have disabilities. But it's a language in our office that we all speak because we have to be versed. Me, I have a background, and then other people we just had to learn. So how do we use what you all are doing to further encourage? Because I mean, we use our knowledge and just our love for people to encourage our students and even each other. But of course, there has to be more than just the person. Like if that person is off, if they gave me a resource, I can use that resource. Or if I graduate and I never see that person, at least I have this resource. So of course, we've given several UNC Charlotte resources. This is a great resource on campus, or things I know just being from Charlotte. You can contact this. I've given people information from vocational rehab, just all the programs that I know and have worked for. But what I guess it's like now I'm part of this, and I'm like, well, there's more I could tell my students other than, I'm supporting you, the rest of the office is supporting you. But once you leave this office, I want them to still feel supported because they have so much to contribute to this world we live in. But other resources that I could share.
Yeah, absolutely. So the answer is yes. We can help you with that. And there is, I think you're right. I think that it is about connecting the students with those partners and supports as they transition out into their careers and they graduate, those types of things. But we would be happy to work with you. I know Jessica Kim at Career Services and Leanne Tarigny is on the call today. So often what happens is it's difficult to connect the dots on campuses too. So I want to make sure if you don't know Leanne Tarigny and Jessica Kim in Career Services that you connect with them as well to ensure that the students that are coming to you are also getting connected with Leanne and some of the stuff that is happening on campus and with our organization. But you can visit our website at di-nc.org for additional details, and drop your contact information in the chat box, and we'll be happy to connect with you after today's call.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I want to be respectful of time, but I also don't want to cut off conversation. So again, Kevin, how can people connect with you if they have additional questions or information they want to hear?
You can reach out to me. I will go ahead and put my email in the chat. And so feel free to email me. And again, I will share the presentation with Beth after this meeting. And then I know that recording will be posted as well. So you'll be able to see the recording and then access the presentation as well.
Right. Well, Kevin, I want to thank you again so much. Thank you guys for the work that you do at Charlotte Works. And we look forward to continuing our partnership. And thank you again for all that you do for supporting the community and underrepresented populations across the Charlotte and Mecklenburg area. So thank you.
Absolutely. And again, thank you for all that you do, and thank you for the opportunity today.
All right. All right. So with that, again, want to thank you all for joining us today. Our next group mentoring session will be on October 25th. So be on the lookout for future e-blasts and information that can direct you to our call next week. I say that October 25th. And again, for those that are planning to join our fall conference, we look forward to seeing you next Thursday, starting at 9 o'clock on the campus of Train Technologies at Davidson, North Carolina. Registration is still open. If you are interested, check out our website again at di-nc.org. We would love to see you there to hear more about this and other programs that we have going on at Disability in North Carolina. With that, Beth Butler, Fatal Executive Director of Disability In. And again, thank you guys so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.